They made the world laugh. The world buried them anyway. In this video, we visit the graves of famous comedians. John Belushi died March 5, 1982, age 33. Buried at Chilmark Cemetery, Chilmark, Massachusetts, on Martha's Vineyard. His actual body moved to an unmarked plot after fans repeatedly trashed the headstone with bottles. The original stone reading, "I may be gone, but rock and roll lives on," left standing over an empty grave. Animal House at 29. The Blues Brothers at 31. A speedball injection in Bungalow 3 at the Chateau Marmont, administered by actress Kathy Smith. The grave fans visited for years, holding no one inside it. Jackie Gleason died June 24, 1987, age 71. Buried at Our Lady of Mercy Catholic Cemetery, Miami, Florida. The monument steps engraved with "And Away We Go." The Great One, Ralph Cramden in The Honeymooners. The Oscar nomination at 46 for The Hustler. He moved to Florida in the late 1960s with the stated purpose of playing golf every single day. He recorded hundreds of musical albums without being able to read music. The comedian who promised the audience he was going, finally going for good, beneath the words that had always meant his exit. Bob Hope died July 27, 2003, age 100. Buried in the Bob Hope Memorial Garden on the grounds of Mission San Fernando Rey de Espa, plus A, Mission Hills, California, in a half-dome tomb beside his wife Dolores. When she asked where he wanted to be buried, he reportedly said, "Surprise me." 57 USO tours across 6 decades, entertaining troops in every major conflict from World War II through the Persian Gulf War. Named an honorary veteran of the United States Armed Forces in 1997. The man who spent half a century surprising soldiers, getting his own surprise at the end. Red Fox died October 11, 1991, age 68. Buried at Palm Memorial Park, Las Vegas, Nevada, his funeral paid for entirely by Eddie Murphy. The king of the party records 50-plus blue comedy albums before mainstream America knew his name. Fred Sanford on Sanford & Son, at age 49. Collapsing on the set of The Royal Family from a heart attack so sudden that cast and crew thought he was performing one of Fred Sanford's fake cardiac episodes. The IRS had seized his home, his jewelry, his cars 2 years before his death. Fox performing into his late 60s just to reclaim his own possessions. Murphy covering the burial costs. The man who made America laugh about being broke, dying broke, his grave paid for by someone else. Gilda Radner died May 20, 1989, age 42. Buried at Woodlawn Cemetery, Stamford, Connecticut. An original Saturday Night Live cast member, Rosanna Dana, and Emily Litella, and Baba Wawa, the physical comedian whose characters ran on pure anarchic joy. Ovarian cancer in 1986, 3 years of treatment. The memoir, It's Always Something, published 4 months before she died. Gene Wilder establishing Gilda's Club after her death, a cancer support network that grew into Cancer Support Community. The woman who turned pain into punchlines, dying before her own book found its full audience. Sam Kinison died April 10, 1992, age 38. Buried at Memorial Park Cemetery, Tulsa, Oklahoma, his headstone reading, "In another time and place he would have been called prophet." The former Pentecostal preacher whose sermons became stand-up, the screaming the same in both contexts. Reportedly sober, struck head-on by a drunk teenage driver on a Nevada highway. Witnesses said he got out of the car, looked at the sky, said, "I don't want to die," then said, "Oh, okay," and lay down. The screaming comedian going quiet on a desert road. Ernie Kovacs died January 13, 1962, age 42. Buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park, Hollywood Hills, California. His headstone reading "Nothing in Moderation," a cigar placed in his hand by Jack Lemmon, and another tucked into his jacket at the funeral. The television pioneer who invented most of the visual comedy grammar that subsequent generations inherited without attribution. Killed when his station wagon hit a utility pole on a wet Los Angeles road. Kovacs reportedly trying to light a cigar. The man who invented how television comedy looked. Dead at 42 with a cigar in each hand. Andy Kaufman died May 16, 1984, age 35. Buried at Beth David Cemetery, Elmont, New York. Latka Gravis on Taxi. The man who wrestled women on television. The performer who spent his career making audiences uncertain whether what they were watching was comedy or something else entirely. He had told colleagues for years he planned to fake his own death. When lung cancer arrived, many did not believe it. The skepticism outlived him because he had spent his career making skepticism the only rational response. Buried in Long Island, half his audience still waiting. Don Rickles died April 6, 2017, age 90. Buried at Mount Sinai Memorial Park, Los Angeles, California. Mr. Warmth, the insult comedian whose first Tonight Show appearance greeted Johnny Carson with, "Hello, dummy," establishing a template for dozens of subsequent visits across 4 decades. The real message underneath every insult that he saw you clearly and liked you anyway. He outlived the Rat Pack and most of his generation, performing into his late 80s. Dying of kidney failure at 90. The man who made cruelty feel like affection, the insults finally running out. Buster Keaton died February 1, 1966, age 70. Buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park, Hollywood Hills, California. The Great Stone Face, director and star of The General and Sherlock Jr., the physical comedian who had to invent new filming techniques to capture what he was doing. MGM taking control of his films in 1928, stripping his creative authority. A decade of alcoholism following. The rediscovery arriving in time for him to understand his legacy. Too late to reclaim the career. The stone face finally still. John Candy died March 4, 1994, age 43. Buried at Holy Cross Cemetery, Culver City, California. Uncle Buck in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. The comedian whose warmth was structural rather than performed. The characters carrying a basic decency that made audiences trust him before he had earned it. He died of a heart attack in his sleep while filming Wagons East in Durango, Mexico, found in the morning by his assistant, a movie he had taken partly for financial reasons. The gentlest comedian of his generation, going quietly in a Mexican hotel room during a film no one remembers, because the man who made it did not live to finish it. Moms Mabley died May 23, 1975, age 78. Buried at Ferncliff Cemetery, Hartsdale, New York. The first African-American woman to establish herself as a solo stand-up comedian, performing at the Apollo Theater more than any other act, recording 20-plus comedy albums across 60 years. Born Loretta Mary Aiken, both parents dead before she was 13, she left North Carolina and built a career from the raw material of what had been done to her. She took the name from a boyfriend who had taken so much from her that the least she could do was take his name back. The most enduring single act in the history of African-American comedy, buried in Westchester. Mel Blanc died July 10, 1989, age 81. Buried at Hollywood Forever Cemetery, Los Angeles, California. His headstone reading, "That's all, folks." The man of 1,000 voices. Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck and Porky Pig and Tweety and Sylvester and Speedy Gonzales. More than 1,000 distinct characters across 6 decades. The voice actor who was the entire cast. A near-fatal car accident in 1961 left him in a coma, doctors reaching him by addressing Bugs Bunny rather than Mel Blanc. Bugs Bunny answered. He went back to recording sessions from his hospital bed, buried beneath the line that ended every cartoon. Stan Laurel died February 23, 1965, age 74. Buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park, Hollywood Hills, California. The thin one. The one who scratched his head while Hardy waited for the idea that never arrived. 107 films with Oliver Hardy, across 3 decades. Hardy died in 1957, and Laurel spent his final 8 years in a Santa Monica apartment receiving visitors and writing material he knew he would never perform because he refused to work without his partner. The writer and architect of Laurel and Hardy, buried in the California hills. The thin man who cried on cue, finally crying for real, with no camera there to catch it. Godfrey Cambridge died November 29, 1976, age 43. Buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park, Hollywood Hills, California. The stand-up comedian and actor who brought surgical precision to material about race in America in the 1960s. Cotton Comes to Harlem. Watermelon Man. The comedy albums circulating in black households while mainstream America caught up. He died on a San Fernando Valley film set, collapsing from a massive heart attack while rehearsing for a television movie in which he was playing Idi Amin, a role for which he had gained over 80 pounds. The doctor on set could not revive him. The comedian who exposed the absurdity of American racial performance, dying in the costume of an actual monster. Toady Fields died August 2, 1978, age 48, buried at Mount Sinai Memorial Park, Los Angeles, California. The nightclub comedian whose Ed Sullivan and Tonight Show appearances made her a fixture through the 1960s and 1970s, the act built on honest self-deprecation, at a time when show business expected women to perform differently. She had a leg amputated in 1977 due to phlebitis complications and returned to performing, incorporating the amputation into her material, refusing the option of invisibility, dying the following year at 48 from a pulmonary embolism. The comedian who turned her own vulnerability into her sharpest instrument, that instrument finally laid down. Henny Youngman died February 24, 1998, age 91. Buried at Mount Judah Cemetery, Ridgewood, Queens, New York. The king of the one-liners, "Take my wife please," the most quoted setup in the history of stand-up. Delivered with a violin tucked under his arm, a prop that existed primarily to be ignored. Working nightclubs and Catskills resorts since the 1930s. Performing into his late 80s because he did not know what else to do. He died at 91. The setup without a punchline for the first time. Mo Howard died May 4, 1975, age 77. Buried at Hillside Memorial Park, Culver City, California. The one who directed the eye pokes and the head knocks. The straight man of a group that had no straight man. He toured with Larry Fine until Fine's stroke made it impossible, then toured solo. He died of lung cancer, having buried Curly, Shemp, and Larry. The last stooge stopped. Curly Howard died January 18, 1952, age 48. Buried at Home of Peace Memorial Park, later reinterred at Home of Peace Cemetery, Los Angeles, California. The most popular stooge, the one audiences came to see, the one whose improvised sounds no performer before or since has successfully reproduced. A series of strokes beginning in 1945 ended his career at 41, the brain damage accumulating across his final 7 years. Mo visiting him regularly. The most beloved member of the trio, dying at 48, without having been well for a third of his life. His finest work still playing in theaters, while he could no longer remember where he was. Lou Costello died March 3, 1959, age 52. Buried at Calvary Cemetery, East Los Angeles, California. The one who could not keep his hat on or his dignity intact, whose perpetual confusion and victimhood was the engine of one of the most commercially successful comedy partnerships in American entertainment history. His son Lou Jr. drowned in the family swimming pool in 1943, 3 days before a film premiere. He continued to perform. He died of a heart attack at 52. The partnership dissolved, his fortune nearly gone, thousands at his funeral in Los Angeles. The man who fell down for a living, buried in the city that had watched him fall. Don Knotts died February 24, 2006, age 81. Buried at Westwood Village Memorial Park, Los Angeles, California. Barney Fife, 5 Emmy Awards across the Andy Griffith Show's run. The only bullet in the breast pocket, and the nervous energy coiled so precisely it defined an archetype of harmless inadequacy. He had suffered from genuine severe anxiety his entire life. Andy Griffith at his bedside when he died of pulmonary fibrosis at 81. The man whose single bullet became a symbol of good intentions exceeding capacity, buried quietly while the show still ran in syndication. Freddie Prinze died January 29, 1977, age 22. Buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park, Hollywood Hills, California. Chico Rodriguez, on Chico and the Man at 19. The youngest headliner in the history of Las Vegas. The kid from Washington Heights, who became a national star before he could legally drink. Shot himself in a Los Angeles apartment, surviving 20 hours before dying, his infant son, Freddie Jr., already in the world. The career that compressed 20 years of rise into 3 years, the ending arriving before the arc could show its full shape. Freddie Prinze Jr. became a movie star 2 decades later, his father in the Hollywood Hills, the son never having known him alive. Groucho Marx died August 19, 1977, age 86. Buried at Eden Memorial Park, Mission Hills, California. The grease paint mustache and the cigar and the stoop and the words, duck soup and A Night at the Opera. Films that dissolved the logic of institutions and left only laughter where the structure had been. His final years managed by his companion Erin Fleming, family members contesting her influence in court, the comedian who had mocked authority for 6 decades, subject to an authority struggle he was too old to control. He died 9 days after Elvis Presley, receiving a fraction of the media coverage. Buried in Mission Hills, the grease paint mustache having eaten the man. Rodney Dangerfield died October 5, 2004, age 82. Buried at Westwood Village Memorial Park, Los Angeles, California. His headstone reading "There Goes the Neighborhood." Born Jacob Cohen, he abandoned comedy in his 30s to sell aluminum siding, returned in his 40s, Became famous at 58 in Caddyshack and 64 in Back to School. The comeback erasing the first attempt. Quadruple bypass. Brain surgery. Open heart surgery. Buried beside Marilyn Monroe, his headstone delivering the joke he had been telling for 40 years. I don't get no respect. There goes the neighborhood. Shemp Howard died November 22, 1955, age 60. Buried at Home of Peace Cemetery, Los Angeles, California. The original third stooge who had left in 1932 to pursue a solo career and returned in 1946 when Curly's strokes made continuation impossible. The brother who gave up what he had built to fill the role the family needed filled. He died of a heart attack in a taxicab returning from a boxing match, a cigar still in his hand. Columbia Pictures used footage from his previous films edited with stand-ins shot from behind to fulfill the remaining contract. The brother who came back to help used even after he was gone. Minnie Pearl died March 4, 1996, age 83. Buried at Mount Olivet Cemetery, Nashville, Tennessee. The price tag still on the hat. The howdy delivered to Grand Ole Opry audiences from 1940 onward, without the joke ever wearing thin, because the joy behind it was never a performance. Born Sarah Ophelia Colley, she chose the character at 28. She joined the Opry in 1940 and never left. The woman with the price tag still on, buried in the city that had been her stage for 50 years. Scatman Crothers died November 22, 1986, age 76. Buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park, Hollywood Hills, California. The dancer and singer and actor whose voice had warmed rooms since the 1930s. Jack Torrance's doomed psychic colleague in The Shining. The voice of Hong Kong Phooey, and countless animated series. The comic work Invisible, because it lived inside the television rather than on its cover. He performed for troops in World War II, worked continuously for 60 years, the industry using the warmth without building the marquee around it. Lung cancer at 76, buried in Hollywood Hills while the voice lived on in the cartoons. Tim Conway died May 14, 2019, age 85. Buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park, Hollywood Hills, California. The Carol Burnett Show across 11 seasons. The man who could make Harvey Korman corpse on cue with a dentist sketch, and a little old man, and a Siamese elephant routine whose comedy engine was genuine, unrepeatable surprise that rehearsals would have destroyed. 6 Emmy Awards. He died of normal pressure hydrocephalus at 85, his final years complicated by a guardianship dispute that played out while he could no longer speak for himself. Buried in the hills where he had done it best. George Burns died March 9, 1996, age 100. Buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park, Glendale, California. 3 cigars in his jacket pocket at his own request. Radio, then television, then film, with Gracie Allen, and without her, the Sunshine Boys at 79, Oh God at 81. He and Allen buried side by side, the prop and the performer having become the same thing. Maury Amsterdam died December 27, 1996, age 87. Buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park, Hollywood Hills, California. Buddy Sorrell on The Dick Van Dyke Show, the joke machine character whose archive of material was genuine, accumulated across decades in vaudeville and radio and nightclubs before television, domesticated the persona for living room audiences. Known professionally as the human joke machine, the catalog maintained and accessible for 60 years. He died the day after Christmas at 87, outliving most of the cast. Buried in the Hollywood Hills, the machine finally powered down. Steve Allen died October 30, 2000, age 78. Buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park, Hollywood Hills, California. The first host of The Tonight Show in 1954, inventing the template every subsequent host followed, the desk and the band and the monologue, the format surviving 7 decades without fundamental revision. Also a composer of more than 8,000 songs. He died of blunt head trauma from a minor car accident, the impact not recognized as serious until too late. The man who invented late night, buried in the hills where late night was made. Danny Thomas died February 6, 1991, age 79. Buried in a mausoleum on the grounds of St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, Memphis, Tennessee, having requested that his remains be placed there so his grave would be surrounded by the children he had devoted his later life to protecting. Make room for Daddy across 11 seasons. He had promised St. Jude Thaddeus in 1943 that if his career succeeded he would build a shrine, the shrine becoming a pediatric cancer research hospital that has treated more than 90,000 children. Buried on its grounds, patients in treatment on the floors above him. Chris Farley died December 18, 1997, age 33. Buried at Resurrection Catholic Cemetery, Middleton, Wisconsin. Matt Foley, the motivational speaker, living in a van down by the river. The Chippendales sketch opposite Patrick Swayze, the Saturday Night Live comedian, whose physical commitment to the destruction of every surface he touched was the act and not a part of it. A cocaine and heroin overdose found him in his Chicago apartment, the circumstances echoing the Belushi death 15 years earlier, that everyone around him had invoked as a warning. He had been trying to get sober. 33 years old, the same age as Belushi. W.C. Fields died December 25, 1946, age 66. Buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park, Glendale, California. The juggler who became a comedian, the comedian who became the permanent embodiment of a man who disliked children, dogs, Mondays, sobriety, and the general condition of being alive. A juggler of professional championship caliber at 16. He was also a secret philanthropist who placed money in numerous banks under false names, a habit that produced the legend that he mistrusted banks, the truth being that he mistrusted everything and diversified accordingly. He died on Christmas Day, a holiday he had spent years publicly despising. Buried in Glendale, the man who hated everything dying on the day set aside for celebrating the opposite. Marty Feldman died December 2, 1982, age 48. Buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park, Hollywood Hills, California. The bug-eyed British comedian whose thyroid condition produced his most recognizable feature, the eyes pointing in two directions, the face establishing the character before a word was spoken. Igor in Young Frankenstein, the performance distilling decades of British grotesque comedy into one film, dying of a heart attack in Mexico City during the filming of Yellowbeard, a man whose face was his instrument, buried in Hollywood Hills, the eyes finally pointed in the same direction. Doodles Weaver died January 17, 1983, age 69. Buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park, Hollywood Hills, California. The comedy character actor who appeared alongside Spike Jonze and his city slickers through the 1940s and 1950s, the act at the intersection of vaudeville and novelty music and pure absurdism. The brother of NBC President Pat Weaver, a connection that produced no career advantages. The Doodles Weaver career, operating in the lower registers where the most enthusiastic material frequently lived. He died of an apparent self-inflicted gunshot wound at 69, the years contracted from the Spike Jonze era that had given the absurdism a national platform. They made the room shake, then quiet. The graves are what remains of that sound.